I'm Ian Curran, video producer for the Aquinian, and my guests today are Hanna Mercier and Sydney Gallibois, who attended the Harvard National Model United Nations representing St. Thomas University. Hi Sydney, hi Hanna, thank you so much for joining me today. So tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. My name is Hanna Mercier. I'm a fourth-year student at STU. I'm majoring in English literature with a double minor in poli-sci and criminology.
Yeah, I'm Sydney Gallibois. This is my second year at STU, and I'm honoring in political science with a minor in history.
Okay, so tell me about how this opportunity to go to Harvard and represent STU came about.
Yeah, sure. So basically, we were picking courses at the start of the semester, and I noticed that I received an email from a previous prof that kind of mentioned that STU was going to be giving this opportunity for a certain amount of us to be attending the Harvard Model UN conference. And I thought it'd be a great way to get involved with the school while also gaining credits. So.
I was also contacted by a professor. A professor sent out a mass email to a class, and I decided to join. I think that's how a few other of us joined, was from professor's recommendation.
Professor recommendation, okay. So what is the Harvard Model UN for those who don't know?
So basically it's a kind of a big competition, I guess you would describe it as, where a bunch of delegates from schools across the world, across Northern America kind of can join and debate on certain specific issues concerning the United Nations.
Yeah.
Okay, and so how did it feel, like having schools from around the world coming to Harvard? How did it feel to represent STU on that grand stage?
It was definitely an interesting experience since we got asked a lot where we were from, where our university was from. We even got asked if we were the delegates from Yale at one point.
Yeah, that was super intimidating.
Yeah. And when we would say St. Thomas, there's a few St. Thomases in the United States, so we had to clarify that it was Canada, and people didn't really know where it was. But we got to tell a lot of people about where the university was and what it was about.
Yeah, basically people didn't know where New Brunswick was, and the closest thing they knew was Toronto. So, I mean, time after time we would explain it, but it was just easier just to say Canada rather than kind of specify.
All the Canadian delegates that were there that I talked to didn't even know where St. Thomas was, so it was an interesting experience.
Okay, and so how did you guys prepare for your trip down to Boston?
Right, took a lot of preparation. The course was actually a night course that was offered, so it was 3 hours once a week on Monday nights, and there was about, I think originally there was around 10 of us in the course, but due to some international students not being able to travel to the US, we kind of condensed down to around 6 delegates that actually attended the conference. It took a lot of preparation, mostly just we all had different topics in our committees, so we were all working separately but together, learning the rules and learning how to present ourselves in front of a lot of people at once.
Yeah, we had a lot of mock model UNs, so twice, I think, we would go and we would talk about certain topics and we'd be assigned a country, and that really helped us prepare. We also prepared with doing a 10-page paper about our subject. So I was on the International Organization of Migration. So I did a 10-page paper about migration deaths around the world and specifically related to borders. And we then condensed it into a 1-page paper, which was our position paper, which we sent to Harvard.
Wow, that's a lot of work, guys.
Yeah, it was not...
Yeah,
light
and
course.
The topics were so specific too, so it really took a lot of studying and kind of finding all the right information that we needed, specifically because our country that we were assigned to was Ireland, and none of us were from Ireland, so we didn't know anything about Ireland, so we really had to learn the history, learn the background of the country, their values, their culture, everything, in order to really represent the country well.
Yeah, and some of us were assigned topics. There was a futuristic General Assembly where I believe somebody was assigned the topic of genetic modification. And so because Ireland doesn't have a stances on that yet because it's not a thing, they had to come up with a creative stances based on Ireland's previous opinions.
Yeah, it was definitely, and it brought in some different other world issues too, about wars. And personally, my topic was, I was on the World Health Organization committee, and we talked about substance use disorder. And I thought that was super important just because of in today's age, the concerning rates of substance use. So that was really impactful to me.
Wow, yeah. And so spending all this time preparing and then finally getting to Harvard and presenting, what was one big lesson that I guess you took away from this conference?
I think really I gained a lot of confidence by attending the Model U Nations conference. I was able to speak in front of a room of 100 people, and really just my first time going up and speaking in front of them. Obviously very, very nervous, but after it was over, people were so kind. They would come up to you and they'd say, I want to work with you. I loved what you had to say, and they made you feel better about wanting to share what you were thinking. So.
Yeah, my takeaway was I was really glad you wrote that 10-page paper because it was my source and my references for every speech that I gave. Another takeaway was even though you can try your hardest to learn this situation and what's going on in the world, someone's already going to know something that you don't know, and teaming up with them and working with them is the best case of learning new things.
I also would say that another thing would be you really need to learn to work with others in a time crunch, because you're working with, you get split up into blocks once you've kind of said your stance on the issue for your country. So all of these other countries kind of work together on one working paper to kind of decide these are the ideas that we have and these are what we want to put forward. So working with others was a really big thing, and getting your voice heard. I think that was one thing that I could take away from this, was really learning to speak up, because people will talk over you and you need to get your voice heard.
Yeah, it's writing a 14-page paper with a whole bunch of other delegates from universities that are distinguished, like Yale, Stanford.
Well, and these people have been attending these conferences for years. Like, these aren't just first-timers like us. We were probably one of the only teams there that were there for the first time. Many of the other teams have been attending these conferences several times a year, because this isn't a course for them. This is a team.
Yeah.
Okay, and so after learning these lessons of, the importance of collaboration and, gaining that confidence, how do you, plan on, implementing that into your education here at STU and your life?
So I plan on doing the Model UN course next year as well. We're going to New York and we're going for 7 days next year, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Anyone can join, really, and we're really encouraging a lot of people, because the bigger of a delegation we have, the better of a country that we're going to get with more power, and that'll allow us to be heard more at the conference. But my major takeaway is that next year I'm definitely going to go in with ideas already in mind. I think I went in planning on creating ideas with other delegates, but delegates have ideas of what they want in their resolution that they want to pass when they get there. So they will have these ideas of, we want to increase border security by adding more police at the borders, and they will name it and they will brand it, and then they will get awards. So you definitely need to go in with headstrong and know what you want.
Definitely. And for me, I would say a takeaway is speaking my mind and standing up for issues that I believe in. I'm a graduate this year, so I will not be returning to MUN, unfortunately, and I wish that I would have joined this program sooner, because I think it's an excellent opportunity to break out of your shell and get to know other students really, really well. But for me, I will be attending law school next year, so I think that this was a really great way to learn how to present myself in front of others and practice, because that's something that I'll carry into my future studies.
Okay, great. And is there anything, that you wanted to mention that we didn't really touch on in this interview?
No, maybe just that there's lots of opportunities for people to join.
Yeah, I think one thing that I didn't realize when I was going in, there is a little bit of a course fee and it's a lot of work, but in the end it's worth it, because we got to stay in Boston in a very, very nice part at a very discounted rate.
And we got a fancy hotel.
Yeah, and we got to do a lot of shopping, and there was a Starbucks and a mall in our hotel. We had a lot of fun outside the conference. We all became best friends.
Yeah.
And we text all the time. So it's a lot of fun and definitely worth the little course fee and the little bit of schoolwork you have to do.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess for those who are interested and might, want to help be part of this team and make this bigger STU team, how might they get involved?
All you really have to do is reach out to any of the political science profs, Dr. Bateman, Dr. Narain. They can really help you be contacted with Stephanie, who runs it. Or you can talk to one of us, because we can always email our prof and get you kind of into it next year, because it's something you do have to be registered by a prof in order to do it.
Well, Hannah, Sydney, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.